I am Khadija Tahera. My research is in improving testing processes for new sustainable product development. Today, I am at the Open University campus in Milton Keynes. So under a funded project by Interact, we developed an online interactive tool, and today we're talking about the tool and then find out how this tool can help manufacturing to design their product and plan their verification, validation, testing activities systematically, and how this tool can help them. I'm going to be meeting with Dr. Andrew Halfpenny, who is an expert in this field.
For me, I've been working in automotive, aerospace and power generation for the past 30 years. And today, everything is different. An automotive engineer put it to me like this. He said, 10 years ago, if we released a car and something went wrong in the engine, we'd simply replace that part under warranty. But today's battery systems are so big and complicated, there's a lot of components which just aren't serviceable. And if we have a reliability fault here, it could bankrupt the company. And that's the magnitude of the problem that we've got, both in aerospace, automotive and power generation today, with today's level of innovation.
So what are we actually looking for? How do we deal with this issue?
So we start off with failure modes and effects analysis, FMEA, and then we move through into the qualification testing, both physical and virtual testing.
Using failure mode effect analysis is identifying all the failure modes, therefore the risk, very early stages of the product development, designing early and just saying, see, I have done this verification, validation and testing so that I can confidently say I'm meeting the requirements that you have set, whoever it is, the customer or regulation. So it's essentially linking from early requirements from different stakeholders to the test and confidently saying, I have done all of these tests, therefore I can tell this requirement has been met.
That's right.
But there are lots of risk for the new technology. Can we focus all of them?
What FMEA does is it concentrates on each of those, but at each time we start to give it a risk number. We call it a risk priority number very often. And this risk priority number now means that although we've got thousands of failure modes, we can now concentrate on the ones that are going to be dominant. And that's a big advance that we've had in FMEA.
So this is the technological risk we're talking about.
Yes.
How a technology or a product might fail. So this is the voice of engineers. But we need to think about now who are our customer, and for these new technologies, if we focus on all this risk, what is the situation of the business? So the voice of customer, voice of regulatory, of course we need to meet the sustainability goals and so on, and the voice of business. So how we incorporate all these angles and analyze our problem.
And there you've hit the real problem that we have. FMEA is developed to characterize, as you put it, the voice of the engineer. How do we design components that don't fail? We've actually got to extend that now to consider, does it actually do what it's supposed to do? The voice of the customer. That may be a physicist working on a nuclear fusion reactor, for instance. Does this component not just last, but will it deliver the performance that that engineer wants? And also the business. Is this sustainable? Can we develop this? Do we have the production facility? So voice of business is important. And of course, voice of regulator in power generation and aerospace in particular, and for looking at safety, have we met the voice of the regulator? So what I really like about your research is how you're bringing that in with that risk priority number, so that we don't just focus on the risk of failure and mitigating failure, but we're also bringing in, have we done what we're supposed to from the voice of the business, the customer and the regulator? And that's something that's quite unique.
We developed a tool which focuses on not only the FMEA, failure mode effect analysis, but it does the pre-work of mapping customer requirements, voice of customer, voice of regulation, and then how that maps to the product's requirement. And then through FMEA, we identify the risk. And then we plan in 3 steps, identifying the priority of the customers, priority of the business, regulations. We identify what are the risks, what are the high, medium, low risk, and then we plan our test. How do we physically test, virtually test? How do we verify and validate? So the tool we developed does these three things. But as an engineer, what do you see the benefit of doing this work together?
I think the work that we've done here, it's not just concentrating, as you said, on the FMEA, but it's going all the way through that process. And we're also looking, as you've said, at how do we qualify it. So it's all right addressing the failure modes, addressing the needs, but you have to say, how do we know we've achieved success? So there's going to be a qualification test, and it's important that we get that right as well. So again, the new tool also does that. It starts to look at saying, well, this is a requirement, how do we know it's achieved? And right at the beginning of the design cycle, we can start to see, have we got those tests available to prove that it will do what it wants? And that's all brought in as a new type of tool right at the FMEA stage, keeping us on track throughout the design process. The last thing we want to do is to get to the end of the design and then find there was a requirement out that we've not tested and it could bankrupt the company. We want to find out all those at the beginning to make sure our design has all of those benefits in.
That's a great feedback for the tool we have developed. What is the benefit you see as an engineering company to work with academics like us? What it brings and the benefit of collaboration?
So for me, working in industry, it's my job to bring solutions from academia to challenges from industry. So it's my job to go out to academia and to talk to you. And I think you've got a good solution here. And I think we've got a good important challenge here. So it's how do we bring those two together so that your solution actually starts to address the challenges of the customer. And from that, I please our customers and I develop our products. And obviously we support you in your fundamental research, which is feeding into our products.
And I think that's a win-win situation for all of us, isn't it? As academics, we get the support and we know what's the real problem. So our research could be focused on real problem, and the solution we build together to create the solution we need for the environment.
If you want to have further discussion or potential collaboration, please feel free to contact me at khadija.tahira@open.ac.uk.